Hey, what's up, guys? I wanted to put this video together just to kind of explain the traffic lights to people who may be confused as to what it's about, right? Your attendance, right? You're allowed 3 absences in a 6-month running average, right? And they base your percentage here on attendance based on that 6-month average. Actually, all of these columns are based on a 6-month running average, right? So let's say you do really well one month and you get a lot of CEUs that month, or you get a lot of one-to-ones or a lot of referrals or a lot of visitors. That is going to go against your average for the 6-month running average, right? So I'm using Lisa York's chapter, Belleville, Illinois, as an example here, just so that nobody feels like I'm calling anybody out, right? So if we look here, right, Lisa, she's at 100 points here, right, because she's present for 21 out of 21 weeks, no absences, right? And even if you've got, substitutes, right, you can still be in the green for attendance, right? It's not that, complicated. Like some people here have plenty of substitutes, 3 subs here. And so they're at a 15 there. Yeah, so that's where that's at. And like I said, this isn't a running average. So they could be, over the course of, maybe in the next month they might be green, right? Because that one of those substitutes or whatever will drop off because it was in that average, right? And then as we go for referrals per week, the average per week or whatever, right? So Lisa's given 64 referrals, right, total for year to date, right? And then she's received 20, and she's had 28 visitors. Gosh, it's a lot of visitors, right? 28 visitors, right? So she's averaging, right, over the weeks that the 6-month running average, right? She's hitting 3 referrals on average per week because she gets 64, right? You only need to average 1 per week, right? See, this guy down here, he averages Lisa Adams averages 1 referral per week, and she's still in the green, right? She's at 20. So you just need to average 1. Now, let's say you give like 3 referrals in 1 week. Well, you're good for like the next 3 weeks, or next 2 weeks or whatever, right? Until that 6 months or that 26 weeks, right, that 3 referrals drops off because of that running average, right? I made a little diagram here. Like, let's say you've got your 6-month rolling period here, and you brought 4 people. Your average, right, as far as 6 months is concerned, is this 6-month period here, right? And so let's say you brought, 2 people. You brought 2 people in January. And that puts you at 6 people, right? 1 person, 1 visitor per month, right? I said 4 people here. I should have said visitors, but let's imagine in December you brought 4 visitors and 2 in January. You didn't bring any in February, March, April, or May. You're still in the green, right? But the second that you go to the next month, right, and that average kind of goes away, right? Now you're here, right? And this is your running average, your 6-month average. So those 4 people have dropped off. So, you have to be mindful of that. Like, if you do really well 1 month, that's great. Just make sure that, if the next month you slacked off, remember that you got to make up for it another month later or whatever, right? And this isn't just for visitors, but it's also for referrals and for one-to-ones and for CEUs as well, right? So you got to average 1 referral per week, which is what Lisa does, 1 per week. Visitors, I think it needs to be 0.2. Yeah, 0.231 gets you in the green, right? That means you need 20% of a visitor average, right? So that's around 1 visitor per month or so, right? It's around that. And so let's say you do really well 1 month, right? And you have a bunch of visitors, right? You're going to stay in the green for longer, right? You'll have a longer point of time when you're in the green. And then as far as the one-to-ones, you're supposed to get at least 1 one-to-one per week, right? average per week. These people are 1.9, 1.14, 1.1, and they're in the green. This person dropped down to 15 points here because they're averaging lower 1-to-1s per week. So if you average 1 per week, that's great. Let's say you do 3 1-to-1s in a week. Well, next week you don't need to do a 1-to-1, right? That's kind of the way that works. Until, right, the week that you did really well drops off, right? And then same goes for CEUs, right? Everybody's in the green here when they've got 1. The second that you drop below 1.9, right, you're at a 15, right? Less than 1 CEU per week. You can go and look up any podcasts and just search like a BNI podcast. Just go into your podcast app and just hit BNI and just listen to a random BNI podcast, when you're driving on to work someday or you're going somewhere, and boom, that counts for your CEU, right? That's what I would suggest if you need to get those out. I listen to books on tape, and they're usually business development books. And if you listen to business development books, that counts towards your CEUs or counts towards your education, right? And so, like, I rarely, there will be a month where I don't put any CEUs in, and the next month I've got like 15 CEUs because I just read a 15-hour long book, or I got finished with a 15-hour long book, right? So there's that. If you have any questions about what this traffic lights all mean to you individually, just let me know. We can go over it in more detail. But like I know it seems kind of crazy. Like if somebody, for this next visitor stack day, I've invited 4 people. Who knows if all 4 of those people are going to show up, right? I'm pretty sure I should be able to get at least 2, right? So that'll be good. If I get 2 visitors, then I don't need to get a visitor next month, right? But I have to remember that, this is March, so 6 months from now, these visitors are going to drop off of my record, right? And I'm going to need to account for that later on, right? And so I know it's tough to invite visitors, but you need to do it so you can get credit for it, because attendance is marked. Like I mark the attendance before I close the palms, the way that it's done is that somebody like Dan's a perfect example. Dan puts in a visitor and it shows up under the visitor registration, and we say, yeah, that person was there, and then I mark attendance. Boom, Dan gets credit for it, right? If you don't put the visitor in through the app, right, you're going to have trouble. So let's say you're on the app homepage, and you probably can't see that very well, so we're going to switch over here for a second. You're on the app homepage. It's as easy as hitting that visitor button there. It's hard to do this. Hit that visitor button and register a visitor. Right? You'll put their information in. You need to have their first and last name. You also need an email, and you also need a phone number for them. Just find somebody, like your brother or your sister, or your friend of somebody. Just anybody to just come and see the meeting, right? I mean, I just tell random people, some of these 2 visitors that might show up on Thursday, I've never actually met them in person, right? But I say that they need to meet our branding person for being able to create business cards, right? And Jamise is that person, so like I want them to meet Jamise so that Jamise can get them business cards, right? And then work on building the relationships with those people. The other question that we get a lot is, how come we're not converting visitors very well, right? It's each person's responsibility to reach out to the person that they've invited, right? If you're like, this is my opinion, right? But like, I have somebody like the El Guaco taco food truck guy, right? I'm working on trying to get him to join, right? It's not going to be something that I can do overnight because, he has different things that he has to get to, but I'm going to continue to work on that relationship and help him to see where value will come from him coming to our chapter, because I want him to join as a caterer, because ultimately he wants to do catering work, right? So we have to try to reach out to the people that we've invited and try to get them, to see the value in BNI. It's not to try to sell them on it. It's to say, hey, we'll have work for you, just come and join, And so if you've got any questions on this, just let me know, and we can go from there. Thanks.